Hello, hello, hello. Can everybody hear me? Hello, hello, hello. Can I get a one, two? Can everybody hear me? Can I get some comments real quick? All right. All right, all right, all right. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. This is Document Tingz. All right, how y'all doing? All right, so today we're here to read the transcripts from this past weekend. Now, just to give a little disclaimer when it comes down to the documents that I'm getting ready to read. All right. Let's go over a few things. I am not a paralegal. I am not an attorney. And also, I am not a judge. I am just simply here to read court documents, just simply saying that I know how to read. This is Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. All right. So just make sure we get that out of the way. Now, let's go ahead and get into the transcripts. So let me share, and we're going to get to reading, y'all. All right. Can y'all see this? If everybody can see this, y'all can give me a one, two, one or two. Can you see it? One. Can you not see it? Number two. All right, y'all, let's get started. Let's get started. Okay, so we're going to scroll down. As y'all do know, this was had on August the 7th. It went from 9:45 a.m. to 12:53 p.m. All right, let's look at the table of contents. So, Miadis Livachoff, that is the director of FTL Consulting. So, as y'all see here, direct examination for Mr. Sullivan, cross examination for Mr. McLemeth, redirect examination from Mr. Sullivan, and then recross examination from Mr. Limit, and then a redirect examination by Mr. Sullivan. So it is a total of 131 pages. All right, so let's get started. Let me move my microphone. All right. Call to the order of the court. The court, we're going to go on record now at 9:45. This hearing was to start at 9:30, so I wanted to make sure when I heard that one of the attorneys would be delayed, I wanted to make sure that I gave him sufficient time to come. So it's 9:45 and we should start the case. Case 24-CV/24228. Megan Pete versus Milagro Elizabeth Cooper. Let's start with appearances from counsel. Plaintiff first, Mr. Sullivan. Good morning, Your Honor. John O. Sullivan from Quinn for the plaintiff, Megan Pete. I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves. Miss Harapetian. Good morning, Your Honor. Mary Harapetian from Quinn Emanuel, also on behalf of plaintiff Megan Pete. Mr. Humphrey. Good morning, Your Honor. Dan Humphrey, also on behalf of Megan Pete. The court. Okay, very good, Mr. O'Sullivan. Miss Hyapetian, and what is your last name? Mr. Humphrey. Mr. Humphrey. The court. Thank you very much. Mr. Humphrey, thank you, Your Honor. The court. Defendant. Mr. McLemeth. Good morning, Jeremy McLemeth, on behalf of Milagro Cooper. Mix Dixon. Good morning, Your Honor. Ronald Dixon on behalf of Milagro Cooper. The court. Okay, and Jeremy, what is your last name? Mr. McLemeth. McLemeth. The court. McLemeth. McLemeth. Would you like me to spell it, Your Honor? The court. That's okay. Thank you very much. So we're here on Megan Pete motion for sanctions based on spoliation of evidence. I understand, Mr. O'Sullivan, you have one witness, Mr. O'Sullivan. We have one witness, the defendant by video deposition, yes. And then FTI is the document pressing witness, and Matthias here will be our live witness, yes. The court, okay. And how do you wish to proceed? Mr. O'Sullivan, I think, Your Honor, if we could, we have these deposition testimony. We'd like to put that in first. At the end of all of this, I think we're going to ask you to find that there was an intent to deprive us of the evidence. So this is her own words and demeanor, and then we would put the FTI person on just to take us through what we found on the phone. Okay, the court. Okay, I would really like to hear first from FTI to understand what they found on the phone. Mr. O'Sullivan, absolutely. The court. And then, if you don't mind, we hear the deposition testimony. Mr. Sullivan, that's fine. The court, because I first want to hear what you found. Mr. O'Sullivan, yes. The court, was deleted and why and how, right? And hopefully the expert can tell me that. Mr. O'Sullivan, I think he will. And just for the big picture of our case, there are extensive deletions in all the ways you look at this. There are no innocent explanations about, but that's what he's going to say. The court, okay, very good. All right, so let me go. Then Mr. McLemeth and Ms. Dixon, how do you propose to respond here? Mr. McLemeth, well, if they're putting on a witness to testify, I guess I have an opportunity to cross-examine that witness, and then I don't know what clips they're going to play from the deposition testimony itself. Our client is not here to respond to anything that may be said in the deposition. The court, but you were there or you have awareness of what was in this deposition. Mr. McLemeth, Ms. Dixon was there. I was in and out, and the transcripts is here. The court, okay. Mr. McLemeth, so I mean, we'll put it together. The court, it is what it is. It will speak for itself. Mr. McLemeth, hopefully, I don't know what clips they're showing and like how it's taken apart, but yes, I will see what happens. The court, I seem to have the entire transcript here in this notebook, correct? Mr. O'Sullivan, yes, Your Honor, a full transcript for this just reason. A full transcript is there so you can see the context on either side of the clips, but there was no intent. The court, very good. Thank you, Ms. Dixon. But Your Honor, we don't have a copy of this deposition transcripts. So we didn't have one previously, and we're not clear because there could be something else that was taken out of context or something that we wouldn't be aware of. The court, okay, but you were present, Mr. O'Sullivan, and we gave them a binder that has the transcript in it just for today. The court, thank you. All right. Do you intend to present any witnesses? Mr. McLemeth, the defense? The court, yes. Mr. McLemeth, no. I mean, we intended to present two witnesses, but they're not available. One flight was canceled. Again, Miss Cooper's, get it out. Again, Miss Cooper's flight was canceled last night. And then our expert is not available to testify in person today. The court, and who is your expert? Mr. McLemeth, Thomas Pullen. The court, and what is he an expert on? Mr. McLemeth, forensics, cell phone, the same sort of things that FTI does. Be able to give context into some of the issues that would potentially be raised today. The court, okay. Has he had an opportunity to review this particular cell phone, or is he a general witness regarding evidence? Mr. McLemeth, well, he is in the process of reviewing this information. So the court, he is in the process. Mr. McLemeth, yeah, he's still in the process. We just hired him. I think the last hearing we had, I mentioned we were going to hire him, and we did. I think that was maybe 3 weeks ago, if that. And we've been giving him the information and, going through the process. The court, but he has not reviewed this particular cell phone. Mr. McLemeth, not yet. Ms. Dixon, not entirely, and neither have they, actually. The court, okay, and has he seen the report from FTI? Mr. McLemeth, no. Mr. O'Sullivan, well, Your Honor, the reports here deliver simultaneously to both sides in every step of the process. They're kind of in the middle of this, on this. So counsel certainly had the report as long as we've had it. It's an email to both sides. The court, it was sent to both sides? Okay, very good. Ms. Dixon, well, there was some confusion as to which one was operative. There was one that was sent prior to the backup drive, and that was the one that we're understanding they're operating under right now. But there was another one sent later that recovered a lot of the information that they said was spoliated. And so when they were asking for this, they were operating under a different FTI report. So in good faith, we turned over a backup that was made prior to them having the file. The court, sure, Miss Dixon. And so I don't think they've completely gone through it. The court, okay, well, I'll learn more from the expert. Is there an operating state? Well, is there an opening statement, Mr. Sullivan? I'll just do a brief opening, Your Honor. A couple of points. The court, excuse me, I'm sorry. There's somebody standing there in the back of the courtroom. The courtroom deputy. It's the IT. The court. If you can come up forward, that's fine. If you can figure out how I can get my computer started, thank you very much. Okay, go ahead, counsel. Mr. Sullivan. On the key point, which is these missing text messages. It looks like between Milagro and these other people, Sunstar and Daystar, these messages that were missing on the earlier phone that was provided. And you're going to learn that there are these unique row IDs. You can track it. You can audit it forever. Are also missing on the later one she produced. So you'll see literally in the line by line backup of the phone, those missing ones. And we're going to see in the timeline how they correspond to what was going on. So nothing has been cured on that. So there may be some other things that came back on the phone, but in the areas that they've examined, nothing has been done to remedy that. And nothing has been said so far about any other way to get to the bottom of that. So you're going to treat that as gone. The other thing, two other things. One, the clips will show you that Miss Cooper from early on was closely involved in this legal process. We're going to argue she kind of went from observer to player with really tough agenda. And even in her own words, is kind of saying, sue me. What's the liability? There's a lot of legal stuff. So we're going to argue that from a very early time, she had to know she was at risk of litigation, that there was going to be litigation someday. Obviously, she gets a preservation letter at some point. But even prior to that, it's pretty clear that she's stepping into something, maybe involved in stuff that other people don't want to do, that there's risks. And then the last thing I'll say is I had one of the first email spoliation cases in this courtroom 17 years ago when they were just inventing email and the case turned on one email. The court, who was the judge? Excuse me, Mr. Sullivan, Judge Rodriguez, Jose Rodriguez, and Olga Garcia, my paralegal, was with me for that. And it was a contract that said you couldn't negotiate pending a sale. Everyone said they never negotiated. They met, they never negotiated. And we found the email later that had been like screenshotted or copied. And it said, well, you guys are at 100 million. We were at 120. We're going to move. And that came out late after the guy had testified it never happened. And Judge Rodriguez said, well, some people would call that negotiating, and that was the end of the case. And there were ultimate sanctions in all of that. But I just say that because we've had some meet and confers, and they say, well, you're missing 2,000, but you got 13,000. I mean, one email on intent on something like this could be the whole case. So I think with that, I'll call our witness. Yes. The court, very good. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. By the way, Your Honor, I think we've made arrangements. He has what he has in his computer. I think we're going to be able to show it up here, and he'll operate it himself. The court, very good. If you can give me just a moment. The court deputy, sir, please raise your right hand. All right. We get into Mr. Livachoff. This is the head guy of FTI, just to let everybody know, okay? So plaintiff witness, Matthias Livachoff, duly sworn. The court deputy, please state your name and spell your last name for the record. The witness, yes, my name is Matthias Livachoff. My last name is Livachof. The court deputy, thank you, sir. All right, everybody, this is going to start the cross examination. So let's get started here, okay? By Mr. O'Sullivan. Good morning, Mr. Livachoff. I mentioned this to you yesterday when we sat down. For today, try to talk slow. I'll try to talk slow too, but some of this is a little bit dense. And just for the benefit of the court, can you just generally explain how you got involved in this situation, what you were brought in to do, and what you're here to do today? Well, I messed up. What you're today to do. Yes, I work for FTI Consulting. A colleague of mine performed an analyst on a report of this case. And because I work in the Miami office, I've been helping him with this analyst. And so I got involved in the report. I got familiar with all the evidence displayed in the report, and I'm going to talk about the facts about the case. Okay? And just to let everybody know, if you're looking at the screen, if you see a A, if you see a Q means a question and an A means an answer, just to let everybody know, okay? So if you see an A and a Q, that's what that means. All right. Okay, just generally speaking, I guess the category you're going to talk about is digital forensics and the application of digital forensics to Mrs. Cooper's phones, yes? Yes, that is correct. And can you, just for the benefit of the judge, kind of trace me through from as early back as you want to go to your experience in your education as it relates to your expertise now in digital forensics and analyzing iPhones? Yes, absolutely. So I started at, I don't even know how you say it. Baccalaureate. I ain't finna butcher that, but y'all see that. Of computer science and been working in this field for 19 years, working on digital forensics, e-discovery, and global investigations. I also have certifications that are related to this specific topic, like ENCE, and I have 3 certifications from SANS Institute that are also related to computer and cell phone forensics. I'm sorry, what was the last one? A certification from one institute? SANS Institute, which is an institute that provides training about information security and digital forensics. Okay, and are the engagements involving digital forensics and analysts of what is and isn't on a phone? Is that a major part in what you do? Yes, that is correct. Not only for the United States, but also for international cases. I also oversee all the forensics labs in Latin America, so I have past experience in this specific topic. All right. I'm going to force you to go a little bit slower because it's a little harder to get. So you said that you do these digital forensic engagements in the United States and elsewhere? Yes. Not only in the United States, but also for Latin America. I oversee all the labs that FTI has in Latin America. Okay. And I think you told me when you sat down yesterday, you've never testified in court before, correct? That is correct. But you've seen in many engagements that we're leading to court and the case ended before it got there. That is correct. And I also prepared affidavits. I prepare expert reports. This is just my first time testifying in court. Okay. And generally speaking, the subject of these prior engagements include investigations of iPhones and deletions. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Okay. We'll go to your materials quickly, but just for general understanding, can you sort of walk us through the collection of the phone? And I know your colleague did that in Houston, to how you're here with a database that has what's in the phone just in terms. Oh, what the hell? Alexa. 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 Cancel. Alexa listening, y'all. I know damn well she lying. Anyway. Cancel. What would you like to do instead? Cancel. I ain't say nothing about no Alexa. She up there listening and shit. Anyway, y'all, let me start over. And I know your colleague did that in Houston, to how you're here with the database that has what's in the phone, just in terms of steps that are involved once you get the phone and how you process the data to get it in a way that you can talk about it here. Yes, absolutely. So, when a colleague of mine performed a forensic image of the phone using Celebrate, which is an industry standard tool that we use for, I want to get that spelling on that. I know that tool is what they use. Spell it, please. Celebrite. Celebrate. Yes. Okay. And that's an analyst tool to look into what's inside of a phone. It allows us to make a forensic image of a phone and then also process the image and extract all the content and artifacts from the device. And that's widely used in our or your field to do that set of operations. Yes, it's widely known. It's one of the industry standard tools, and it's also used in law enforcement. So I know that it's reliable for its analysts. In the terms of the extraction and then just processing it back within FTI, the tool was used in this case, the Celebrate. Yes, that is correct. All right. An image is taken. The data comes back to FTI. What's done next to try to understand what's going on inside of the cell phone? Okay. So FTI was assigned with the task of identifying if there were any deletions on the device, particularly about WhatsApp and iMessage, which are two messaging tools widely used. So for the, let me stop you right there. So when you're starting to do what you're going to do, the assignment was both as to WhatsApp and iMessage attempt to determine if there's evidence or deletions or intentional deletions or usage of the application or the usage. Okay, all right. So what's next in that step as you're doing that? Okay, so one type of analyst is when we look at the database that contains all the text messages that the phone has sent or received, that database has a particular field called row ID, which is a sequential number that gets added automatically when a new message is sent or received on the phone. All right, I want to spend 1 minute on row ID because I didn't understand this as well until I understood that. So row ID is a data field in the data of the phone. Yes. And I think the best way to explain this, if you think about an Excel spreadsheet that you have, your different rows and all the content of the spreadsheet, like many lines. Every time a message is sent or received, there's a new line on that database, regardless of who sent it or who received it. It's just every message on the phone is stored in that database. It gets this unique identifier. Yes, within the materials you're going to show us, do you have something where we could just see how that shows up on one of your charts? Yes, where we can see the row ID so the judge can see how the numbers are. And yes, I can show it right now. Sure. Is that too small? The court? Well, yes. The witness? Give me 1 second. I can fix it. The court? Okay, I can see it now. So each row, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is a message. The witness. No, that's Excel displaying the sequential number of rows. But column A, which is row ID, that is generated by the phone, the court. Okay, Mr. O'Sullivan. And so a message is sent or received, and the phone assists the number that goes from one up to hundreds and hundreds of thousands here, right? Yes. Yes. And that unique row number. Row ID is permanently assigned to that message. The data in that message. Yes. Yes. Okay. And if the message is deleted, the row is deleted, and you see missing part of the sequence in the row IDs. Yes. Yes. Mr. McLemeth, I'm going to object to the leading. I know that he's trying to get him to make this more efficient, but every question is followed with a yes. And he's answering basically the question for the witness, the court. Okay, so I need to get some background information fairly quickly from this witness. And I think this is an efficient way. So I'm going to overrule the objection, and you will have an opportunity to cross-examine if you believe that there's something incorrect. Mr. O'Sullivan. Okay. So in your analyst on the phone, am I right that you have two separate images from Mrs. Cooper to work with? Yes. We originally have an image of the phone, and then later we received a backup. I think it was in July with with basically another set of content. It was two different backups. The spreadsheet that we're seeing on the screen is from the latest backup that we received. The court, the question I would have is, who did this backup come from? If you could ask the witness, Mr. O'Sullivan. This was from Ms. Dixon. Counsel handed us, the court. If you could ask, does this witness know the answer? Mr. O'Sullivan. I think so. Mr. O'Sullivan. How did you come into possession of the second image of the phone that you used for your analyst? The other party provided it to us, and we made an image of that backup. Another colleague of FTI performed an image of this second backup. The court, thank you, Mr. O'Sullivan. So in the original transmittal of the phone data, I think somebody met with Ms. Cooper, right? And physically extracted the data from her phone, right? They were together? Yes. On this later one, we were given by the lawyers is just a hard drive or something that had all the data. Yeah. Yes, that is correct. And once you had that, though you did generally the same analyst on both. Yes. Celebrate supports both type of images, and we analyze it with the same tool so we can compare apples to apples. Okay. If we in You said this is the more recent July backup that you have here on the screen, right? Yes. It has row ID starting at 1. And if you look down, where does it go down to? All the way at the bottom. So the last row ID is 421,092. Okay. So at least on this image at this time, the phone has assigned that 421,092 separate identifying numbers to the messages that were at one time. Yes. Okay. And if we looked at the spreadsheet that corresponds to the earlier produced phone, it is also the case that there are row IDs that cover the entire spectrum. Yes. There's also a report generated from that phone that only contains the gaps that were identified between the different row IDs. I can pull that up if needed. Okay, I just want to get one more concept out. So you mentioned row ID gaps. Is that a significant term in people who analyze phones for deletions? In this particular case, it is because, as I was explaining earlier, a row ID is generated sequentially, right? So if there are missing row IDs, it means that there was a message before and now it's not on that database. So it's been removed. All right. So before you ever saw any data from this case, when you're coming in and you're going to be analyzing deletions, you're going to be looking for row ID gaps, right? Yes. And did you find a lot of them here? Yes. Y'all peep gang now. Mr. O'Sullivan, Your Honor, permission for any colleague to hand a copy? The court, you may. All right. So when I just received then is an exhibit number that has PTFQ written on it. Mr. Sullivan. Yes. So I guess that's plaintiff Q, just marked for ID for now, if that's okay. The court, I understand. Okay. By Mr. Sullivan and Mr. Liverchoff. Can you take a look at what we've marked for identification here in front of you and let me know if you can explain what that is? I think we're getting ahead of me. I think you're getting ahead of me. Sorry. Just before you start diving into the data, can you just tell me what the exhibit, the paper exhibit is that something you've encountered in the phone and have used as part of your analyst or analyzed? Yes, I've seen this before. Yeah. Okay. And no secret. So yesterday when I met you and asked what was in there, I said, can I give you some things, important dates, and you look around and see what the deletion pattern is, right? Yes. And we did that in real time. I didn't know the answers and we just worked through a few. Yes. Yes. So I'm going to quickly do that here. So on this one, just for the record, Your Honor, this is an extraction from the defendant's phone and it depicts an exchange with Sunstar Peterson, who is important to this. He's the father to Tory Lanez and was certainly involved in the communications that we've concerned about here. And what do you see as the time step on this communication from Sunstar Peterson to Ms. Cooper? I see that the message was sent on December the 22nd, 2022 at 2:58 a.m. Okay. And in broad strokes, my question to you yesterday was, can you go into the data from the phone and see what deletion patterns are in the days surrounding that? Yeah. Yes. I can show you the gaps that happen before and after. Okay. And just do it in slow steps. So, what's the first thing you do to try to address that? So, this report that I have on the screen has all the gaps. Sorry, let me remove filters. So, this report is the report that FTI prepared. Yes. From the iMessage database. And basically, when there was a gap between the previous row ID and the next row ID, we identified how many row ID entries were missing and the delta between the beginning timestamp from the previous message and the ending timestamp from the next message. Okay, I'm going to try to break that down a little bit. So in the previous row ID, so those row IDs are what we've talked about before, these unique sequential numbers that are assigned to each message. Yes. Yes. And these are row IDs from Mrs. Cooper's phone. Yes. Yes. And just to be clear, this is the report that only contains the gaps. This report doesn't have every single row ID. That's helpful. So you're saying there's a version of this report. You can probably get to it that just every single row ID on it that still exists. Yes. Yes. And then if you were to look at it, it goes 1, 2, 3. It might then go 27 or 50. And then it goes back to sequential. And those are the gaps. Yes. Yes. And this is your attempt to capture the gaps on Miss Cooper's phone. And the time period is indicated. Yes. Yes. So am I right that the green column of the number of missing rows, that this just the math between the first two columns? Correct. All right. So let me see if we can go to, I think at the beginning, December 22 of 22, that matches this email, right? Right here. Okay. So we started with the communication from Sunstar to Miss Cooper saying to call him. And then you looked on that date to see whether there were deletions. And I think you started with the timestamp. Yep. Yes. And did you find that in the data, the timestamp from the message we marked? Yes. It's the one that I have highlighted on the screen. Okay. And what does this show? I mean, there's a lot of columns and there's a lot of numbers. So, what is the sort of takeaway based on your analysis of that date that they were in touch? Yes. So I can see that after this message, there are 276 row IDs that are missing. All right. So just so I have that. So you've matched the timestamp here. Yes. Yes. And you're saying that that particular entry has its own unique ID. It has a row ID, right? Yes. And then immediately following that, there's a large gap in row IDs until the next row ID that's still here. Yes. In that case, after the communication we've looked at between Sunstar and Miss Cooper, you're saying there's 278 rows, messages of data missing immediately after that? Yes. The number is 276, but yes. Okay. And you have columns on the right that have beginning timestamp and any timestamp. What is that? So for the same row ID, we have a timestamp. So in column E and column F, I'm showing the timestamp of the first or the row ID that the timestamp of the next row ID. So I can also see how much time passed between one message and the next. Okay. And just like column C, it's kind of math between A and B, column D, and sort of just math between E and F on the amount of time. Yes, the court. So, Mr. O'Sullivan, if you could put down on the record for me, because I can barely see. I see December 22 at 2:58, which I understand is the time that this message came in Exhibit Q. And then what is the next time in column F that shows there was a message? The witness. That's the next. That's the date of the next row ID, Mr. O'Sullivan. Yeah, I think I can clarify by Mr. O'Sullivan. So the 258 corresponds, am I right, sir, to the 66 on the missing rows? Yes. So you started with the piece of paper we have in front of us. Exhibit Q matches this entry here in 258. And I think the judge question is, when is the next communication after that? And I think we're going to get to it next. We're going to mark that one next, by the way, Judge. But starting with this one at 258 is your testimony that immediately following that the number of deletions is what? The 66? Yes, Mr. O'Sullivan. And as I said, Judge, I think the next communication is going to be when they reconnect. Should I mark that one next? For the record, we're going to mark this as, I guess, Exhibit R for ID. And just for the record, this is also a printout from the phone that has some phone communications on it. Mr. O'Sullivan, do you have that in front of you, Matthias? Yes. Okay, can you tell me what this is? This Exhibit R, what it shows? This exhibit shows three messages from Daystar Peterson to Milagro. The first message was sent on December the 22nd at 5:33 a.m. And there's two more messages. The last one is 6 seconds after. So there's three messages in a span of 6 seconds. Okay? So if we go back to your summary table here on the screen, we connected from the exhibit Q the message from 258, and then there was a gap to 5:33. The judge was asking, when is the next communication? Am I right that what you're looking at is in fact the next communication? Yes. And just for the record, so that from the FTI production, Bates range ending in 508. So you have a Daystar / Miss Cooper communication, then a number of deletions, and a period of no contact. Yeah. Yes. There are 276 missing row IDs, and the time between the two messages is approximately 13 hours. Okay, so after the first contact, the time lapse time where there are no text messages at all after deletions, you say was 2 hours and 58 minutes? Yes? I don't. The 58, I think, is a decimal number. So yeah, 2 hours and a half. 2.58 hours, correct? Yes. And then following the call that we've looked at, which is on Exhibit R between Daystar Peterson, Tory Lanez, and Mrs. Cooper, am I right to read this to say 276 messages are deleted immediately after that? I can say that there are 276 missing row IDs in a period of 13 hours without any communication on that database. Okay, so you're saying if you just look at the date stamp of the last still surviving row ID and then the next row ID that is still surviving, the delta is this 13 hours of nothing. Yes? Of no additional message? Yes. No messages at all in that time. Whatever messages were there in row ID are gone? Yes. And just so I have it for purposes of that sort of bottom line, is the evidence going? Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Can y'all hear me? Give me a 1 if y'all can hear me. Okay. I don't know what the hell happened. My sound messed up. Okay, I'm gonna start back over. I'm seeing y'all comments. So let me start back right here. Where was I at? I think I was right here. Okay, so let me start back. Line is the evidence gone. Did you do this, analyst, in terms of the missing rows in both versions of the phone that you were able to analyze? Yes. The same missing rows, yes? I would need to verify that, but I think you're correct. I would need to double check. I have the report if we need to look into it. All right. Mr. O'Sullivan, for the record, we're going to mark for ID as Exhibit S on October the 30th, 2024, set of communications by Mr. O'Sullivan. Do you have Exhibit S before you, sir? Yes. Okay. And can you tell me what is that? That's something you extracted from the data. But what does it show? So this is another message exchange between Sunstar Peterson and Milagro. The first message was sent on October the 30th, 2024 at 3:27 p.m. There are 4 messages. The last one was received on October the 30th, 2024 at 11:25 p.m. Okay? And were you able, like with the other dates that we looked at, to go into the database and see what was going on around that time? Yes. Can you find that in your materials? So this is the row ID for the first message and the one that was sent on 3:27. Okay, the first message. The top message is Exhibit S, or the bottom one. The first one, the one on the top. So you find that, and what do you find around that? I found that there were 68 missing row IDs. Immediately after that message, yes. And about approximately 3 hours and a half passed between this message and the next message in the database. Okay. And again, just in layman terms, that means that there were messages that at one time, and those messages are gone. Yes. Based on the row ID, yes. There are 68 missing row IDs after this message and is on top of the exhibit. And maybe just quickly while we're here, I asked you about like innocent explanations, things people can do by accident on the phone that would explain this as something other than intentional. I want y'all to pay attention to this. Yes, but I didn't find any other activity that was something different. Well, I mean, this is what you look for when you do this row ID analyst. It's part of its understanding where there are things like auto delete that would have caused the same pattern of missing row IDs. Yeah, FTI looked into this possibility of auto deletions, but there's a property that it's an artifact that we extracted from the phone that said the messages were set to keep forever. So within the inside of the phone in the settings, you were able to see that it was set to keep the messages forever. Yes. Yes. So, which means in order to delete, you would have to manually go in and do something new. Yeah. So that feature is like an automatic deletion that you can set for 30 days or 1 year. And it will automatically delete messages that are that are past that term. Right. And if that was going on a rolling deletion of certain, older messages, would that produce patterns like the patterns you saw on the missing row IDs here? No. All right. So in reference to Exhibit S, anything else that this chart shows here in the second column, maybe? You mean in the second message? Yes. Let me find it. Once you find it, I'm going to ask you one more question just to, yeah. So the second message is right here, 11:15. So you found the message here. By the way, so we have a pretty large number. This is all the same date, October the 30th of 2024, is right after this lawsuit. The 68 at the top, and then the 258. Those smaller number of deletions in the middle Do you make anything from that pattern? No, I can't. I mean, it's probably another deletion or a message that was, there are other ways to remove messages. Like sometimes you can send a message and then you can delete it. Those small deletions are there, but I can't explain how they were deleted. Okay? The court, I want to understand what you just said. So your witness just said it's possible to send a message and then delete it. The sender can delete it. The witness, the sender. Sometimes you made a mistake. Well, yeah, sometimes you made a mistake. You can retrieve one message and send it again or not send it at all. Mr. O'Sullivan, let me see if I understood that. So are you saying that just put aside the bulk deletions for now? If you see smaller numbers here on any given time of the deletion, one explanation is I typed it and then I deleted it before I sent it, or I sent it and then deleted it? No, sorry. What I meant to say was that because I wanted to be complete, is that if there's another way to remove the last message that you sent, if you are the sender, you can undo that. But again, I can't confirm those for those small gaps if it was one or the other. The court. So the undo process, as long as you type the message, it would create a row ID. The witness. No, it happens after it is sent. The court. Oh, it has to have been sent, then undo. Yes. The court. I understand. Mr. O'Sullivan. Okay, so do you have that, Judge? So I think the row ID gets assigned when it's sent or received, and then that's forever. The number is forever. It's assigned to that moment in that message. It may cease to exist in the database, but you can tell that what's left, what's missing. It's simple terms. Mr. Sullivan. For the record, I've marked as Exhibit T or ID on a document similar to the extraction we've looked at before. And I'll ask you, Mateus, if excuse me, if you can just say for the record what this is. Yes. So this is an exchange between Sunstar Peterson and Milagro. The message was sent on November the 6th of 2024 at 7:52 p.m. Okay. And so again, Sunstar, Miss Cooper, and we're talking now about November the 6th of 2024. And were you able to then go back in the more full database to pick that out? Yes, it's right here, 1952. Okay. And again, using the same sort of analyst that's shown here in the other places, the other dates we looked at. Are you saying that the following communication that were deletions, there were 98, well, 89 missing row IDs? Okay, and actually, just before that communication, also deletions? Yes. And again, just to understand it, that column that says time, if you were to look at a spreadsheet leveled and everything you found on the phone, for most of the time, there's a pretty steady flow of row IDs because things are coming in and out on a regular basis. Yeah. Yes. So in doing your analysis, you looked for these gaps both in terms of numbers and items. Yeah. Yes. And then duration, meaning it created a whole day or a part of a day where there's literally nothing. And that stands out. Yeah. Exactly. So what you describe is the time that passes between the last message on the database and the next message on the database. And this applies to all the messages. It's not just one thread. Right. So on the day in question, well, if you count November the 5th and November the 6th, and we don't the timeline up now, but this is after the preservation letter, after the lawsuit. Just in those 2 days, you have not only a total of what? The 576, 246, and 89 number of deletions. Yeah. Yes. And then I want to get to this in this other column. You're saying, looking back at the spreadsheet that corresponds to her phone, on those days that are stretches, 19, 22 hours, where there just nothing, right, that exists anymore? Yes. Okay. The court knows this, but again, October the 30th is on our timeline. That's when the lawsuit is filed. And it's an active period in this case. If you were to take that date, October the 30th through here, November the 26th, how many deletions would I find just in that tight range around the beginning of the lawsuit? Can you please specify? Is this at the beginning of October the 30th or should I start in October the 31st? Yeah, I would do it off the last text message. I guess the question I'm asking you is we looked at Exhibit S and it had these Sunstar / Miss Cooper communications. And the one I have here is October the 30th at, I guess, whatever the earliest is. So you found that for me earlier. And I want to sort of, in between the two messages around the lawsuit, Sunstar and Miss Cooper, what were the total number of deletions in that 6 days or 8 days? Can you do a calculation there to show that? Yes. So what I'm going to show you here is that message that you are mentioning, October the 30th, 2024, 327. So this would be the first gap that I see. And then I'm going to keep counting the gaps until November. Can you repeat the number, date? From Exhibit T, it's November the 6th at, I have 7:52 p.m. I'm not sure if that's Eastern, but just it's there. It's 1952 on your chart, right? So you're in row 45 we're looking at. So you're now isolated the beginning of last, well, at least that communication being open between Sunstar and Miss Cooper, and now at least for purposes of this question to end of this period around the lawsuit. And am I right that you've now matched the communication from Exhibit T that we have back into the database? Yeah? Yes. I'll just go slow on this. So we have a surviving communication that starts the period I'm talking about, Your Honor, and a surviving communication that ends at, or at least ends this period. In the calculation I'm asking you to do, Matthias, is how many deletions were there during that stretch, which is again 6 or 7 days? Yes, there are 2,377 row ID gaps between those two messages. Okay. And again, each of those rows that they have row IDs would have started life as a text message. Yes. And the fact that row IDs are gone means it's not there anymore. Yes? Yes. The court. So if I understand exactly the testimony, you're saying between the Exhibit S and Exhibit T, there are 2,377 row IDs missing? Mr. Sullivan. Yes, Your Honor. In some stretches, including 19 hours and 22 hours where, looking backwards, no text at all. I mean, what survived to today? For the record, more on that. Judge, or can I go to the next exhibit? The court. No other questions on that. Please go. By Mr. Sullivan. I've marked as Exhibit J for ID a one-page document. This is from the FTI extraction of Mrs. Cooper's phone, and she was asked about it in her depot. And I want to ask you, I'm going to call you Matthias because the last name is hard, but can you tell me in terms of what you found on the phone and what you've been analyzing, what this depicts, this Exhibit J for ID? Yes. So this seems to be a screenshot from the message recently deleted folder. Okay, right. And I think you told me from the metadata, this is November the 14th of 2024. At the top, obviously, there are 4 messages that are what it looks like recently deleted. Sunstar Peterson. Do you see it? Yes. Okay, and to the right, it says 30 days. Given your familiarity with analyzing iPhones and how they operate in these deletions, can you explain what that means in context? So what's going to happen in 30 days? So in 30 days, the iPhone will permanently delete that message. Okay, and if somebody is looking at their screen, right? The screen we're looking at on the day at the bottom, I guess. they have the option to delete it immediately or recover it. Yes? Yes. Okay, but this one not checked here, correct? Correct. And I'm right that we don't have this access to this in real time. This is a screenshot within what was produced. Am I right? Yes. So maybe I can do a little calendar math with you. The Sunstar Peterson 4 message slated for deletion here, given the way the iPhone works. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I had a burp. Given the way the iPhone, and for people who are asking, we're about to be on page 41. We're on page 40 currently. I'm getting ready to go to page 41. Let me go back. For example, the Sunstar Peterson chat, it will be in 30 days from that moment. And does it tell you anything about what the decision was made to delete those in the first place? Right. You can infer that this was just quick if it's retention. If I give you that the screenshot was on or about November the 14th, could you figure out what date the Sunstar Peterson messages here were first deleted by the user? Yes, it will be probably 10 days. So November the 4th, roughly? Correct. Okay. Mr. Sullivan, I'm going to shift to WhatsApp. He has some observations about that, but I don't want to leave this. It took me a while to understand it. If the court has any questions, we can come back to it, or maybe it will come up on cross. But what he has done is taken the phone, brought it in the data, and then trace these dates in the litigation world into what's going on with deletions. And it just ties all the way through. So, with that, I'm going to move on to WhatsApp, the court. The only question I would have is that Exhibit J doesn't have a date on it. All I see is a time that says 5:41. How is that you're able to tie this in to a date, Mr. Sullivan? I believe it is the metadata, Your Honor. That's the problem with all of these things. We have screenshots of Instagram messages from people like Stilettos who have all controversial stuff being said and strategies for Miss Cooper. Um, I said this previously. I was wondering who Stilettos is. Well, let me repeat that. We have screenshots of Instagram messages from people like Stilettos who have all controversial stuff being said and strategies for Mrs. Cooper, and we can't trace it because it's just a picture. It's all been deleted, and then they keep a picture somewhere, but that's not like a hot link or anything. The court. So what would help me is if you ask the witness as to how this particular Mr. Sullivan. That's probably the easiest thing by Mr. Sullivan. Can you, Matthias, actually pull up and look at that metadata on that item? Yes, but this was extracted from the phone image. Am I allowed to open the image? Mr. Sullivan, I would just look to answer the judge's question. I think she wants to know that you can see the metadata that places that date and time. I have a printout of it here, Judge. Let me see if it will help. For the record, we've marked for ID Exhibit AA, which is a printout of information through FTI from the defendant's phone that may assist Mateus in answering the court's question. The court deputy. And for my notes, what is that exhibit? Mr. Sullivan. AA, the court deputy. Well, the description, Mr. Sullivan. It is a one-page document. It looks to be some depiction of metadata in the FDI database that was made from the defendant's phone. I'll ask Matthias, however you say it, if you can explain what's shown here, the witness. Yes. So this appears to be a screenshot relatively where FTI ingested all the information from the cell phone. And part of the right-hand side of the picture is all the metadata available to that picture. And this picture has a creation date of November the 14th, 2024 at 11:41 a.m. Mr. Sullivan. Okay, Your Honor. Can you see that? Is that clear? The court. Yes. Mr. Sullivan. So we have that. The metadata of when that was put there. So this could be off a day or two, but in terms of relation to the preservation letter and the lawsuit, the timing is right there. The court. And can you explain the last modified date and just for my information, why that says July the 11th, 2025? Mr. Sullivan. I can't, but I hope Matthias can, Mr. Sullivan. So you see there's another date just below it that says last modified. What is this about? Right. So last modified date can be any changes made to the picture. It can be that it could be have edited, yeah, and change to the file happen on that date, the court. So the person who uses the phone could have made some modifications to that screenshot. The witness could have, Mr. O'Sullivan. Just in terms of your timing, this looks like it is perhaps just before we were given the second image, right? What we have here today is the second image of the phone, right? Correct. Am I and am I right that Mrs. Cooper or Mrs. Cooper's team delivered that for your analyst probably 17th, 18th of July of this year? Yeah. Yes, Mr. Sullivan. That's the only explanation I know, Your Honor. The court, thank you. By Mr. O'Sullivan. The other area you were asked to investigate was potential deletions relating to WhatsApp. And maybe just going back at least to the level we did it with the messages. What is it you're able to do when you're analyzing a phone in terms of evidence of deletions of WhatsApp? Okay, so in terms of deletion of WhatsApp, the same analyst can't not be done. But we look across the phone's image to see if there were any references to the usage of WhatsApp. Okay, and I think, well, tell me what you found in doing that. Yeah, so there's a database on the phone that is called datausage.sqlite. And that database keeps tracks of what activities per application. So in this case, we saw that WhatsApp was either uploading or downloading data over Wi-Fi on several dates that go from 2023 all the way to 2025, Mr. Sullivan. Okay, I think just for ease and completeness of the record, I'm going to mark he's reading from his report and it's very dense. And maybe I'll have that for the court reporter too, which the court's permission, yes. While we're doing that, Judge, I was going to do this at the end, but the materials, well, sorry, by Mr. Sullivan. Okay, so we now have what's been marked for ID as Exhibit M. And I know it's a copy of one of your reports in this case. And we have it on the screen now. And I just think to the extent you were reading from it with some of these terms of art, it's going to be easier for everybody. So I think the last question was that is it you do or what is it you're able to do to determine WhatsApp usage? WhatsApp deletions? Correct. So we noticed that on the first image that we performed, WhatsApp was not installed at the time of the collection. All right, let me stop you there. So the first image was from the phone that was manually that the data was extracted in presence of Mrs. Cooper in April. Yeah? Yes. The court. Can you give me that date, Mr. Sullivan? April the 9th of 2025. So that would have been, I assume, pursuant to a court order in this case. They met in a restaurant and they did it contemporaneously, Mr. O'Sullivan. So is this your testimony that on that phone when it was delivered, WhatsApp was uninstalled? Yeah? Yes. So no WhatsApp messages on the phone? No. And were you able to determine beyond the fact that there was no WhatsApp there, anything WhatsApp usage on that phone? Yes. So if you scroll down a little bit more, you will see the dates where we see Wi-Fi traffic generated by WhatsApp on the phone. The court. So what you're saying is even if you cannot see messages, you can see that there were Wi-Fi messages during that time because of traffic. The witness. Right. So this is a database that keeps track of traffic. It's not related to WhatsApp. It's related to the use of data on the phone. The court. Understood. Okay. Mr. Sullivan. And just so we have it, so you start with a phone that has no WhatsApp on it, but in other directories of places in the phone, it tells you this phone was going to Wi Fi for WhatsApp on these days in the past. That's correct. Sorry for the leading. I'm just trying to get it out, Your Honor. Okay. What else were you able to determine about WhatsApp in this phone? When you install WhatsApp, there's a service installed on the phone called net.whatsapp.whatsapp.service extension. That service helps WhatsApp work in the background on the phone and prepare notifications. That service was installed based on the file created of that file on October the 12th, 2023. Does this correspond to something in your report? Yeah, it will be between 9/11/23 and 1/28 of 2024. All right. So it's not just that it was connected to Wi Fi, data was going up via Wi Fi and coming back down again. Yes. Yes. Related to WhatsApp. In your profession, in your experience, and when you trying to analyze what's happening on these phones, does the fact that data is going up to Wi-Fi and back down to the phone indicate WhatsApp usage during that period? Yes. In any other observations of WhatsApp on the phone, are you controlling your report from your screen? No. I would scroll down a little bit if you can. Any other points about WhatsApp? On the first image that we obtained, no. Okay, so you got the first image. It didn't have WhatsApp. But when you dug in, you saw it used to have WhatsApp. And it looked like on certain dates there were activity. Yeah? Yes. Anything more you can tell beyond that? No. And those missing WhatsApp, whatever was happening on the Wi-Fi on those dates, in the real world, is that gone forever? The substance of those messages? Unless I can find the backup of the charts, yes, they're gone. When you install WhatsApp, the database that contains the messages is also removed. Okay. So I know it's not the row IDs, but the same concept. If you want to uninstall it, everything goes with it and it can be restored, correct? Correct? Automatically? No. You might need a backup or, right. If you have what you've lost somewhere else, or of course you have it back, but absent that other copy that we don't have, there's no other way for the system to deal with that? Correct. The court. Okay, Mr. Sullivan. So your witness has been testifying for about an hour. We need time to cross examination. Mr. Sullivan. You know what, Judge? I think I'll tender the witness for cross. The court. Okay, Mr. Sullivan. If there are questions, I'm going to want to admit the exhibits that I used with him. They're all derivative of the plaintiff's own phone. Any objection, counsel? Just the ones I've marked here. I have the list. The court deputy, QRSTJAA and M. Mr. O'Sullivan. And M, yes. Mr. McLemeth. I mean, I do have an objection. Let's start with J. I mean, I know that the witness was shown these exhibits, J and AA. The witness was shown these exhibits. No foundation was laid. I mean, I have issues with authenticity. Sorry, y'all. I don't know why the last modified date is 7/11. It was just an idea thrown around, and maybe it was modified or edited by Milagro Cooper. I mean, I don't know why. The court. So these are questions that I'll allow you to ask the witness, and then I will go to the weight of the evidence. Mr. Sullivan. Also, just in terms of the hearsay, Judge, they're not really being offered for the truth. They're just being offered to say this is what was on the phone or this corresponds to what's on the phones. But you can cross him for that. Ms. McLemont. Hearsay would be a secondary objection, but my objection was to foundation, Mr. Sullivan. Well, I think we confirmed in the testimony, Judge, the source of all this is her phone through FTI. So, Mr. McLemont, I maintain my objection. The court. Okay. So I will allow you to do your cross examination. And if we can see through this cross examination that there was no foundation for some reason, then I'll rule. But at this point, they appear to be documents that the witness says that came from the telephone, Mr. Sullivan. So on that basis, admitted over objection, the court. They're admitted yes. Plaintiff exhibits X, Q, R, S, T, J, A, M, F, E were received in evidence. All right, so now we're about to get into cross examination from Mr. McLemeth. If y'all do not know who Mr. McLemeth is, he is the defendant, Milagro Elizabeth Cooper legal team, along with Rhonda Dixon. But it will be Mr. McLemeth speaking here. Okay, so we're on page 51. We're halfway through. All right, by Mr. McLemeth. Do you have the Excel sheet that was up earlier? The one with the gaps? Yes. Or the one with the messages? The one with the gaps. Okay, it's on my screen. I'm sorry, it's on my screen. There you go. So I just have a few questions about this Excel spreadsheet. So the missing rows, when you were asked questions about whether there were deletions, let's, for instance, the 246 number, whether those were deletions, you mentioned that that represents a missing row. Is that correct? Yes. Is a missing row synonyms with a deleted message? Is it the same thing? A missing row that was something and now it's not there anymore. Okay. When you say something, I just want to make sure that it's clear. Is the something a message? In this case, the database is called sms.db, so it only stores text messages. Okay. And are you able to determine who the text messages were sent to and received from? Are you asking the ones that were deleted? Yes. All of those that are missing row IDs. No, you're not. So you don't know who sent the messages, correct? Which messages are you? The missing messages. You don't know who sent them, correct? You don't know if Milagro sent them out or if they were received. I can't confirm that. No. All right. And you don't know who was sent to or received from, correct? Correct. All right. Is there any way to recover that information? From the phone and the data that I've been analyzing? No. Well, I mean, is there any other way to recover that information other than from the phone and the data that you've been analyzing? Like we were discussing earlier, if there's a backup somewhere that we could ingest in our system, then maybe we'd find the messages that are missing and they were undeleted in, well, when the backup was performed. So these missing row IDs, they are from the phone. The first phone that you all imaged, or from the hard drive that you have secondly, this is from the first phone. All right. Now, when you got the second hard drive, did you check to see if any of those first missing rows from this Excel sheet were then found in the second hard drive? There's a lot of gaps as well. No. The question is, did you find any missing rows here from this first phone in the second hard drive? I didn't do a complete analysis to match every one of them, but I can pull up the report and look it up. Well, that's important, right? Because if Miss Cooper turned over a hard drive to you and that hard drive contains some of these missing rows here, wouldn't they be important? Yes. All right. And you didn't do that analysis. No. How long would it take for you to do that analysis? Well, how long would it take you? Well, it depends. If we need to look at row ID, we can find it and see if there's the same gap. Well, I mean, how long would it take you to do the entire analysis? In just this 6 days, there's 2,377 missing row IDs, correct? Yes. So how long would it take you to determine whether in the hard drive, whether you know how many messages would still be missing? A couple of hours. A couple of hours? The missing row IDs For that period of time, did you go back and look for these missing row IDs? Was it just these 6 days? No, we look at the entire database. How many years was that? Can I confirm? I think it go back to 2019. Okay, you can confirm though. So we can see here the first message is December the 11th, 2019. All right. And from 2019, this is one phone. Are you saying that this is just one phone from 2019 up until the last day from the missing rows? I cannot confirm that, because if you are an iPhone user and you transfer your data from another phone to a newer phone, the database gets transferred. So I cannot confirm that this data was generated in this particular phone. Maybe some of this data or the oldest data was generated on a phone, iPhone. I don't know. So there's a possibility that this time period from 2019 to, I guess, present, that there were multiple phones represented in these missing row IDs. Is this possible? It is possible. We're talking about devices, right? The physical phone, the actual phone. That's possible? Yes. It's likely? I don't know. So when someone gets a new phone, a new iPhone comes out every year, right? Yes. So when someone gets a new phone and there's a way, or there's any chance that missing row IDs could be created from the time when they get the new, well, they get the old, well, when they get the old phone, the data transferred from the old phone to the new phone. In my experience, I haven't seen that, because basically a full database is transferred over to the new phone. How is the new database transferred from the old phone to the new phone? How is this done? It's done by Apple technology. I'm not too familiar in the internal software process, but, well, I guess maybe not the back way of figuring that out. I'm just trying to figure out, is it that you put the two phones together and the message transfer from one phone to another? Or do you pull a cable in the phone and it transfer from one phone to the other? Or do you take it to the store and they transfer it over? Like, how does the message go from the old phone to the new phone? All the options that you describe are correct. I don't know what the person did, but you can transfer from phone to phone using the QR code. You can connect the old phone to iTunes, make a backup, and then transfer the data from iCloud to the new phone. You can use iCloud now and make a cloud backup and then restore the data to the new phone. Was there an iCloud backup for any of these messages? No, because what we saw is that the retention policy was set to forever on the phone. So there was no iCloud from 2019. I haven't checked. And on the analyst that I performed, I haven't seen that. All right. So that, there's never been, Milagro Cooper has never saved her messages in a cloud. In an iCloud, I didn't analyze that specifically, but from what I've seen so far in this case, no. All right. When you transfer messages from one phone to the next, let me ask you this. When you transfer data itself from one phone to the next, let's say through a cable, you're allowed to pick and choose what you want to transfer from the old phone to the new phone. Is that correct? Yes, but not like, I think you can select specific apps or a group of apps, but generally iPhone tries to transfer everything from the other phone to the new phone. But you can pick and choose the apps, right, that you want to transfer over. I think you have to select which applications you back up to the iCloud or to the cloud, and then those applications will be all restored to the phone. In a situation where there's no cloud, you just transferring data from one device to the next. When you get into the phone and it asks you to transfer data, you're allowed to choose what you want to carry over from the old phone to the new phone, right? I'm not sure. Okay, so you're not sure if when the phones were transferred over, there were messages that were left in the phone, well, the old phone, and not transferred to the new phone? You're not sure of that? Well, but that's what I wanted to clarify earlier. Even if you can choose, for example, if you're talking about the messages, you cannot select which messages will be transferred. It will be the entire message application or nothing, unless you're using different messaging apps, right? Can you ask that again? So on the phone, you have different messaging apps. Is that correct? Yes. All right. So if you decide that you don't want to transfer messages from a particular app, those messages from that app are not going to transfer over. Correct. So if you say SMS messages, is there a particular app that the SMS messages come from, that they must come from? Or could SMS messages come from various different apps? No. They come from the iMessage or the messaging application. I think the service is called iMessage, and the application on the phone is called Messages. And the SMS.db database stores all traffic from message application. When you say message application and iMessages, is that the same thing? Yes. Okay. Let's start with 2019. In 2019, are there missing row IDs? Yes. So in 2019, are you able to tell us how many missing row IDs there are from, I guess, this stretch of time in? Is this only showing from December? No. That's the oldest message from the database. Right. But it goes from, I guess, the first 2019 is December the 11th, right? Yes. That's when you first started. Correct? So what's the last date of 2019? December the 31st. Can you tell me, just in that one, I guess 20 days, how many missing row IDs are there? There are 1,127. Can you tell me in the year of 2020, how many missing row IDs are there? 27,873. What about the year of 2021? 19,821. In 2022, 126,092. 2023, 91,963. And do you have the 2024? I would have to do this differently because there are so many lines in this Excel that for some reason Excel is not being able to pull up 2024 back. I can search for 2024 and pull that up very quick. Give me 1 second. I'll take it. 70,355. And you have 2025 or no? I need to do the same process. Give me a second. 7,630. All right. So now a couple of questions. The missing row IDs. Does one missing row ID represent one SMS message? Yes. All right. And do you know if the messages, the missing row IDs, if they could be like group chats or group messages? Oh, excuse me. I'm burping again. Y'all give me 1 second. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Missing. They could be. All right. Are you able to tell when missing row or missing row IDs, I guess, went missing? No. So you're not able to say whether the messages, the 1,127 messages from that 20-day period in 2019, you're not able to say when those missing row IDs disappeared. Correct. Is that the same thing for all the other dates? Are you talking about messages? Correct. Yeah, I cannot determine when they were deleted. I can only say that it possibly happened after the last message that I see on the database. When you say the last message that you see on the database, you mean 2025. Well, for each gap. Okay. And earlier, there were some questions about whether the rows went missing immediately after some of the text messages that we saw in Exhibit Q, R, and T. Do you remember that line of questioning? Yes. All right. And you're not able to say whether the messages went missing immediately after those texts were sent or received. Is that correct? Correct. I guess, in fact, those messages of missing row IDs were deleted in a period of time. So, like somewhere between is this it? Is this the missing row ID for 6 days? Can you go to the 6 days in October the 30th of 2024? For example, this 258 here, it looks like Excel line 13,379. That 258 comes after. Or what is that in correlation to? Which time period is that in correlation to? So that's the number of messages. Sorry, this is the number of row IDs missing between October the 30th, 2024, 23, 25, and October the 31st, 2024, 1:30 p.m. So are you able to tell when 258 messages, when they started, I guess, the deletion process? No. Do you know a time frame for when those were deleted? I can only say that it was after the messages that were sent before, because before, what time frame is the messages that were sent before? Just so it would be October the 3rd, 2024 at 11:15 p.m. So sometime after that, 11:15 p.m. time frame, until what time were those 258 messages deleted? October the 31st, 2024 at 1:30 p.m. Is that roughly 14 hours? I calculated here in column D. So yes, exactly 14 hours. Okay, so in that stretch of 14 hours, there's 258 deleted messages. Is that correct? There are 258 missing row IDs. So they skipped the count of the row ID column. All right. But in that 14-hour stretch, you don't know if the messages were deleted 1 minute into it or 14 hours into it. The time or the gap mean that the messages were deleted in that time frame. The report doesn't say that the messages were deleted within those 14 hours. The report says that those 14 hours that passed between the previous message and the next message that made it to the database. So you don't even know in these 6 days, right? From October the 30th to November, from October the 30th to November the 6th, we don't even know if the messages were deleted in a time frame. Correct? No idea when those messages were deleted. If they were deleted a month later, 2 months later, you don't know? No. The court. I want to see if I understand that last answer. The messages were deleted sometime within a 14-hour, 10-minute span. Is that what I thought I understood? The 258 messages would have been deleted within that 10-hour time frame span? The witness. No, let's see. The court. That is incorrect. The witness. Yes, that is incorrect. So the time that passes between, so let me step back to when we were talking about the messages that were stored in the SMS database. So you send or receive messages and a new ID is created, and that message have a timestamp. So I send a message today. It's going to create a new row ID, and it's going to put the timestamp of today's date in today's time. Okay. The next message that comes to my phone is going to be the next row ID. It's probably going to have a close timestamp. It's just whenever I receive it. So if I receive the next message a minute later, there's going to be 1 minute between my previous message and the message I just received or sent. What we are saying in this report is that there are 258 missing row IDs, and the row ID before happened at 11:25 on the 30th. And the next message that I see on my database has the timestamp of October the 31st, 2024 at 1:30 p.m. And between the previous message and the text messages, 14 hours passed. The court. That's all you can say is that 14 hours passed, but you cannot say that the message between the row IDs were deleted within that 14-hour time span? The witness. Correct. The court. You can say that they were deleted, but you can't say when they were deleted. The witness. Correct. The court. I understand. Thank you. By Mr. McLemeth. So earlier, I guess when there was testimony that there were messages deleted, immediately after the text messages that we saw in exhibit S, T, and R, they weren't deleted immediately after that. Is that correct? Or you don't know if they were deleted? I cannot say. Do you have exhibit J? It's I don't have the name by exhibit. If you can give me a hint. Or let's do exhibit AA. That's the one with the metadata. Exhibit J. Do you have that exhibit up? Yeah. Now, for that exhibit, do you see that there were at least from this, there were 20,000 messages, 20,451 messages that look like they were deleted out of this phone. Is that correct? I'm sorry, what are you seeing that? On exhibit AA, on the left side of the page, there are, it shows, it looks like messages and there's a number, 20,451. Do you see that? Yes, I'm sorry, I see it. Does that represent messages that were deleted? Well, no, this is a screenshot and it looks like it's coming from the message application from the recently deleted folder. But these messages were deleted. That's why they're in the recently deleted folder selection, right? Correct. But I cannot confirm unless you press delete. The messages don't get removed from the phone. So someone could have also clicked on recover to bring those back to life. If they did press the recover button, let me ask you this. When you delete the message and they go into this folder, this recently deleted folder, does the row ID go missing right then and there? No. When does the row ID go missing? When they are finally deleted. It could be automatically when the time expires, or it could be manually if you press delete. All right. The 20,000 messages. Do those messages represent a group chat? I cannot confirm that from the screenshot. All right. But you see the other messages that actually have either one phone number or one name, right? Correct. But because it's in a screenshot, it could be a group chat name or it could be a contact name. I cannot confirm, like Justin would say. Justin could be a group or could be a person. The number is unique, but a name can be either. Understood. Just to clarify, is there any reason that a row ID could go missing for, I guess, in this context other than a deleted text message? There could be errors or problems, but in my experience in the work that I do, this is usually the behavior. You see consecutive row IDs and they were missing. They were somehow removed. Now, you said there could be errors. Could you give us an example of errors? No, I was just trying to be complete. Like, I cannot assure that Apple doesn't make any mistake when it's transferring data from one phone to another. But, in my experience and what I see in the field, the row IDs are consecutive every time a message is sent or received using the message app. Okay. Now, can we go to the same exhibit, AA, with the metadata? I wanted to talk about the last modified date. This exhibit AA, the screenshot comes from the phone or the second hard drive that was turned over. The screenshot comes from the phone. All right. And so you had this screenshot. If I'm saying it incorrectly, you had this screenshot before the second hard drive was given. Correct. So that's what I'm not understanding, because earlier, like, there was testimony that the screenshot of this last modification date was around the time that the second hard drive was turned over to FTI. But you're telling me that this screenshot comes from an April 9th phone copy or phone image? I see. I haven't done any analysis on this particular picture, so I will have to look at my notes in the image to confirm with certainty, because I was prepared to talk about that report, and this was not in the report, so I don't want to misrepresent. Understood. But earlier when you were testifying about it, counsel was telling you what to say, and you were saying yes, right? Based on what I'm seeing on the picture, yes. But to your knowledge, this is not even from the second hard drive. You just testified it was from the first phone. Yes. All right. So there is, to your knowledge, Milagro Cooper did not modify this document or this metadata on July the 11th, to my knowledge. No. Have you seen this metadata before today's hearing? No. Do you know if it's an accurate depiction of any metadata from Milagro Cooper's phone or any other hard drives? So creation date seems to be within the period of Milagro having the phone, right? The last modified date. I would need to track that down and understand what it means. Understood. But all I'm asking you is whether you know if this is an accurate depiction of Miss Cooper's metadata in her phone or the hard drive. Do you personally know that? No. In Exhibit J, which is just the screenshot itself that shows the recently deleted, that screenshot, also you have. Have you ever seen that screenshot before today? Yes. All right. And where had you seen this screenshot? I found it on the original image of the device. Has it been modified in any way? That's exactly how it looks on the image as well. You also testified that FTI report that was, it looks like prepared July 31st, 2025. Yes. All right. And on the third page of that report, there are several dates that are listed, correct? Yes. Those dates represent what exactly? So this database keeps track of the Wi-Fi data use. So it's an artifact related to the phone activity, not to the application specifically. All right. So what would trigger, I guess, the creation of these dates? WhatsApp, the court. So we're looking at page 3 of Exhibit M. I just want to make sure that I'm on the same, Mr. McLemith. I didn't get a letter for this. Is this the FTI report M? 6 pages long? The court. Yes, I have that as plaintiff's Exhibit M by Mr. McLemith. Sorry about that. So Exhibit M, page 3. There are several dates towards the bottom of those dates there. Thank you. Those dates were triggers or what generates those dates. So the phone has a database that keeps tracks of activity over the Wi-Fi card. And those dates are related specifically to WhatsApp activity. All right. But when you say WhatsApp activity, I don't know if that's a message being sent or a message being received or just maybe pressing the app on the phone and going into it. Could you tell me what type of activity could generate that date? It doesn't specify. So it doesn't necessarily mean that there is a message sent or received for this data to be generated. Is that correct? Correct. So you don't know or you can't testify as to where or whether there are a message in WhatsApp sent or received on any of those dates or in that report. Is that correct? I would need to take a look at the second image because the second image had 6 WhatsApp messages, if I recall correctly, and I would need to check if the dates match with any of those date ranges. But you have not done the analysis? No. How long would it take for you to do the analysis? We could do it now. It's only a few messages, and we can compare it to the dates which would match with this. Okay. Do you want me to do that? Yes. The court. So while that's happening, I understand the parties have not had an opportunity to present argument yet. But I'm understanding that there are 2 different dates on which Miss Cooper's phone was. Either one date was extracted, and then on another date, there was a hard drive sent to FTI. Do I understand that correctly, Mr. McLemith? Or hand delivered, Mr. Sullivan? It was physically delivered to us in Mrs. Cooper's deposition room. The court. During the deposition, Mr. Sullivan. And then we gave that to FTI, the court. So both of those were analyzed. One, the extraction, Mr. Sullivan. We just got those here. I'm going to clear up this thing about the later one because he's got the database right here. He can match up those dates. The court. Okay. That just gives me enough background to understand this testimony. The witness. So should I display my laptop now, or you can see the WhatsApp messages on the new backup, Mr. McLemith? Yes. And this is going to be a bit small. I don't think I can make it bigger, but In the backup we received in July, there were 6 WhatsApp messages, and they were sent or received on the July the 17th, 2025, and July the 15th of 2025. All right. So that doesn't help us to determine whether there were actually messages sent or received in any of the dates on page 3 of Exhibit M. That is correct. Just to make sure we're all on the same page, these WhatsApp messages are from the image we got in July. And the analysis of the database was done on the phone that we imaged in April. So the image in April would not have covered the period of those WhatsApp messages that we received in July. All right. Now, they were actually messages in the second hard drive that was turned over. The second analyst, you found messages that were not included or were missing from the first phone image. Is that correct? Yes. How many messages did you find in the hard drive that was turned over? How many messages did you find that were missing from the first phone? A. I don't have that exact amount because what happened is because the images were captured at different dates, it doesn't match one to one. But roughly, there were like a 6,000 message difference between the backup that we got in April or the image that we performed in April and the backup that we received in July. So there's a 6,000 message difference. Is that what you're saying? Yes. Could you turn to page 6 on Exhibit M at the very bottom in the conclusion section? Could you read the last bullet point there and explain to me what that 13,000 message number refers to? Yeah, so that's the comparison of one to one of the two databases that we captured, one in April and one in July. Okay, but I'm trying to understand the difference between the number you mentioned, which was 6,000, and this number here that shows 13,000. What's the difference? Well, I would need to check. I guess it's easier when you have both reports side to side. I only have this image open and I was going to memory, but the 13,000 messages was the analysis that my colleague performed comparing the two databases. So the 6,000 number, that number is not accurate? Correct. I was just trying to go by what I've seen before. Is there anything else that you testified to today that is just by memory or not by actually having the hard drive in front of you? No. All right. But the actual difference. So there were actually 13,000 missing messages that were recovered on this second hard drive. Is that correct? Can you specify what you mean by recovered? Well, you didn't have them initially in the first phone, right? You didn't have 13,000 additional messages. That's what I was trying to explain. It's not apples to apples, right? Because the time of the messages are different. So some of the messages can be just new messages that arrive after we perform the first image, and some of the new messages can be missing. Well, some of these messages can be just missing. Understood. And just so the court is clear on it, well, you got the phone April 9th, right? Yes. The backup, the hard drive backup was a backup of the phone, right? Correct? That's what I've been informed. Yes. And the phone was backed up onto that hard drive on February the 21st of 2025, right? Well, based on the evidence that I see on the backup, there are messages from July the 17th. Okay. The court. July the 17th of what year? 2025. Okay. By Mr. McGlemeth. All right. Are you able to tell how many messages are in the backup from April the 9th to the present date? I can. It would take me some time to filter the two reports. Okay, but you haven't determined how many messages in the relevant time periods. So how many messages from April 9th going backwards were actually recovered in the second hard drive? Correct. The information that the report about the 13,000 includes both situations, new messages and messages that happened after the image was performed. So the 6,000 number that you gave, that represents a particular time frame. No. It was just a round number based on what I've been quickly trying to answer your question. So the court, how much more time do you think you need? Mr. McLemid, maybe 2 minutes. I'm just wrapping up. The court, okay. By Mr. McLemid. So let me ask you this. In your analyst, do you determine whether other apps are deleted? No. So you only check to see if WhatsApp was deleted? Correct. You don't know if 10 other apps may have been deleted around the same time that WhatsApp was deleted? Well, first, I don't know when WhatsApp was deleted. Okay. And I see that it's missing from your original image, and I see that it's present on the recent backup, but only with 6 messages. Okay. We could compare the application between the two. We just haven't done that analysis. So you're not aware of whether Milagro Cooper deletes other applications when her phone memory gets low? You're not aware of that? No. Or whether that's a possibility? It's a possibility, yes, Mr. McLemid. But at least from, well, okay, that's it. No further questions. The court, all right, thank you. Mr. Sullivan, how much time will your redirect be? Mr. Sullivan, I think I can do it in 10 minutes, maybe 7 minutes, whether the court prefers. The court, I think our court reporter would need a break. So let's take a break for about 10 minutes and then we'll be back. Mr. Sullivan, I'm just going to come back. We have the new phone analyst in the old phone here, the court. So that will give me some time to do that and analyze that. So it's 11:35. Let's come back at 11:45, okay? Very good. Recess from 11:35 a.m. to 11:50 a.m. All right, y'all, we are on page 78, everybody. Page 78. The court. So, Mr. Sullivan, you're ready to do your redirect? Mr. Sullivan, yes, Your Honor. And I just have 2 points. I asked Matthias to bring up July, the later image, and see if we can put both of them together. And I talked to him, I guess, off the record, but I was in front of opposing counsel. Are we back on? May I proceed, Your Honor? The court, yes. Okay, so we're starting on redirect examination, everybody. Redirect examination. All right, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Matthias, can you tell us basically what you've put up on the screen here? What are those 2 boxes? What are these 2 boxes? Yes. On the left side is a report that we were looking at the beginning that includes the gap analysts or the missing row IDs from the emails that were captioned in April. So this one here is you get the phone and you literally were able to extract with her, with Miss Cooper, the phone. Yes. And this is the analyst of the gaps there. Yes. What about this one? The one on the right is the space. Similar analysts looking for gaps. A number of missing row IDs on the emails that we received in July. The backup that we received in July. Okay. So these are the 2, the court. So I don't want to try to clarify. And Mr. McLemid has pointed out foundation. So the first set of documents we saw was received by FTI from whom and when. And then the second was received by FTI from whom and when. Let's clarify, Mr. Sullivan. And I think the lawyers were involved in a part of that by Mr. Sullivan. So am I right, Matthias, that this is the July delivery? Is that correct? Or is that right? Yes. I'm looking at the right-hand box. And on that one, FTI was giving a portable hard drive. That was a copy of a portable hard drive that Mrs. Cooper turned over to us. Is that your understanding? Yes, Mr. Sullivan. Now, on this first one, again, I think multiple people were involved, but I think it's common ground that Mrs. Cooper met in April in Houston with an FTI representative, Matthias's colleague. They did an extraction live with her and gave her back her phone. And then that was imported into the system the same way that the contents of the hard drive were. The court, thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Am I correct? Yes. So you have the 2 up here. And I think the question, that came up from Jeremy's questions is, did anything that disappeared in this December time period, that we cared about showed up over here in the July, right? And I guess you can just go row by row and tell me, if you can, at least as to this time period. Track the row ID gaps from the earlier extraction and see whether any of those changed or were restored in the July production. Right. So I know it's going to be a little bit small. Happy to try to change it in any way. But if you see here on the April image, yes, there were three missing row IDs starting on December the 2nd, 2022 at 122. And it's the same information that I see here, three, on December the 2nd, 2022 at 122. The same time. The second line is also the same. And so I guess the big ones we've talked about earlier in the morning were the 66 and 276, right? Yes. I'm highlighting them on the screen. So 66 and 276. 66 and 276, December 22nd, 2022. December 22nd, 2022. So is it fair to read that the data that you've pulled up to say at least has the missing row IDs and corresponding messages that were not in the earlier produced phone? Those gaps that we're concerned about still remain in the data that was delivered in July? At the time period that we're looking at right now, yes. Okay, and let's just use the July. Can you go back to the October the 30th of 2024 period that we were looking at? I don't think we've done this, but let's do it on the July one. And I don't, so on the July one, just because I want to dispel any notion that there's on restoration. Yeah, so there are lined up on the screen now. Okay, so can any timestamp you draw a link here? October the 30th, 2024, 327. October the 30th, 2024, 327. Am I sure there may be one or two things off? Am I right to say that we're looking at the summary table for the July phone delivery and the deletions that were concerned about on the earlier delivered phone backup are still present in this most recently delivered one? I cannot confirm all of them, but you can see at least the first four, they match exactly. Okay. And there was a question before, and I just want to clarify this for you, Judge. There was a lot of testimony. He asked you several times, he can't actually identify the date of the deletion, right? That's correct. And that's a fact of life in this forensic science. That's why this whole issue is so dangerous because, well, it's because you really can't, and it's done circumstantially, right? This whole gap analyst is a way to interpret the missing data. Yeah? Yes. By the contextual data. In this April 30th time period, Jeremy asked you several questions that said you can't, for example, there was a message on October the 31st. You can't tell whether there was deleted in the moment or it was created much later, right? That is correct. But what you're saying is, at least in this period after the preservation letter, what we do know is it existed and it was assigned to that moment in time a unique row ID. And that row ID couldn't have been eliminated until it was created. So by definition, if I'm starting with a date, say October 27th or some earlier date, I know that these October the 30th, 2024 deletions are after that, right? Correct. Based on the technology of the row IDs and the dates of the messages. Yes. Right. But it's nothing more than that, just numeral reality. I mean, the row ID wouldn't exist unless there was a text. And it had to have existed at the corresponding time in the sequence when it was its turn before it could get deleted. Exactly. After the date of the last message that is displayed on the database, Mr. Sullivan. Or is, in simplest terms, the date of deletion had to at least be after the date of creation. And if the date of creation was after a cutoff, it's the same. I think that's all I have on redirect, Your Honor. The court, okay. Mr. McGlimmis, can I have one question? Just brief recross. The court, I will give you that. Okay, so we're on recross examination. We're on page 83, going to page 84. All right. Mr. McGlimmis, you mentioned that the first 4 rows line up perfectly, but you see that at least in the 4th row, there were about 190 or so messages that were recovered from the second device. Yes. And there are numbers where they don't match perfectly, correct? Correct. This is just for this time period. This is for a stretch of maybe 48 hours or so, correct? Yes. This is not the full picture of all the messages that may have been recovered, correct? Correct. This is just this point in time. Mr. McGlimmis, no further questions. The court, okay, you may step down, sir. Thank you very much. Now, what I would need to understand next from the deposition of Mrs. Cooper is whether she received the notice, the preservation notice, and when she received it. And is there any dispute as to whether she received it or didn't understand it? Am I assuming that you asked all those questions during the deposition and that's what you want to present to me, right? Mr. Sullivan, yes, Your Honor. That's amongst the things, but yes, that's a primary thing. I don't think it's going to be disputed when she got it. She streamed about it on air. They got your video, girl. Why would you stream that online? See, All right, y'all. Okay, so there's no dispute as to when she got it. When was that she got it, Mr. Sullivan? It's a 30-second clip. It's October the 29th, the court of 2024, Mr. Sullivan. Yes, the court. Okay, Mr. Sullivan. And I think it may be in the first clip, the court. Does the defendant have any dispute with regard to the fact, Mr. McGlimmis, that she received the preservation letter? The court, yes. Mr. McGlimmis, that she received something related to the suit, but I don't know exactly what she received. Mr. Sullivan, maybe it's worth playing the clip. I mean, I asked the question, did you understand you can't delete? And she acknowledged all of that. The court, then we're going to need to play the clip. Mr. Sullivan, okay. The court, and then I want to understand as to then, if she said during her deposition why she continued to delete messages even after the preservation letter so that I can understand her reasoning. I'm assuming you're going to play that clip as well, Mr. Sullivan. Yeah. I mean, and she didn't really give a reason. She said she didn't. Everything she said about deletions were going to play in one kind of package. The court, because I'm just trying to be as suspicious as I can to let you know what I'm concerned about. So once you know what I need to know, then that makes your life easier. You don't need to play an entire deposition for me, Mr. Sullivan. No, maybe just to anticipate where you're going. We've already cut it up. So I think it's going to be a total of maybe 20 minutes. So it's a chunk right on the deletions, and then it's really some things that go to intent, or she doesn't play by the rules. But the whole thing together is just 20 minutes. Okay, all right. So when I'll need to hear your argument and then defense argument after that. Now, with respect to defendant's expert witness, it's my understanding we talked about this issue at our last discovery hearing. And when was that last discovery hearing? It was prior to the deposition, Mr. Sullivan. July the 14th, right? The court, July the 14th. We talked about the fact that I would require plaintiffs to wait until after that deposition to file this motion for sanctions. And then that would be helpful in understanding the reasoning so that, we wouldn't be arguing about this issue in a vacuum. And I think that at point in time, the defendant said that they would be getting an expert. So what I'm hearing now is you have an expert, and why isn't your expert available? Mr. McGlimmis, why is he not available? The court, right. Mr. McGlimmis, well, he's not available today in person, the court, but he could have appeared by Zoom. Did you ask for Mr. McGlimmis? I think we did see email to that effect, and I don't think we got a response as to whether he could appear via Zoom. The court. When did you send that email, Miss Dixon? Yesterday, early, Mr. McLemid. It was set on Monday. Everything was a quick turnaround. So after Monday, we got to contact the expert. We got to talk to him about his schedule. He's got to first respond to us. It takes time to get these things kind of hammered out, and we just didn't have enough time to do it, Miss Dixon. And as soon as he communicated to me, I've called him several times, but when he did communicate, he said he was in Jacksonville and he would have no problem appearing via Zoom. But it's my understanding that no one could appear via Zoom. I forwarded that email to all counsel, including the court, that his response of "I have no problem appearing via Zoom." The court. That's interesting. I have not seen that email, but at any rate, does he have a report, Mr. McLemith? Just in, well, just the same as FTI has not done a complete analysis or some of the things I asked him questions about, our expert is even further back from that. And FTI is a bigger machine than just one expert. They've got people working around the clock on this issue. So he's not ready to do that yet. Remember, we just hired him, I think, that week of July the 14th or the week after. So he's not completely ready. The court. So let's hear her reasoning, because at any rate, there's no dispute that she has been erasing or deleting messages, right? There's no dispute as to that. What the court needs to determine is why. If there's negligence or if it's intentional. And what I have to do as a result, and what ruling I have to make as a result. And I'm not sure that the expert will be helpful to that either, Mr. Sullivan. I just want to add, Your Honor, we did talk probably around 10 days, around the time of the deposition, and they said, we have an expert. And I said, great, let's get that done. And what is your expert even investigating? The court, right, Mr. Sullivan. This is not really an expert. This is how the data appeared at one moment in time and another. Most of what he said is just math. So I don't even know what the option or the opinion he would get, Mr. McLemith. So I can explain. So first, when he put his witness on, he talked about his expertise in Celebrate, in these Excel spreadsheets and whatnot. My expert would have given me more context for the things that were displayed here today. I don't know anything about missing logs or rows or anything like that. Whether they were the same thing as text messages, the SMS, the Wi-Fi from the WhatsApp, all the things that were deleted either immediately or at some other point in time. Those are the things I would have asked my expert. I found out about this stuff as I'm asking their witness. So the expert would have helped me to better prepare for this so that I could have the context and things that I probably still don't know, because I've only learned these things through their witness. So that is the purpose of me getting an expert, is to be able to challenge what they're saying. The things that they said or the testimonies they elected, hey, these messages were deleted right after we have the messages from the exhibit. That's what they had the witness testify to, but that wasn't accurate. So if I had my own expert to be able to let me know, hey, that's not accurate, that's not correct, then that expert would have been able to tell me, and if I wouldn't be able, have been just fishing and happen to find the actual truth about when the messages were deleted, and that he can't even say when messages were deleted. So what's the purpose of why I waited the court? So you're going to contest as to whether they were deleted before or after the preservation letter, Mr. McLemid. So there are messages that they refer to in previous deficiency letters that are way before the lawsuit was filed, 2022. They referenced messages in 2024 before the lawsuit was filed. So at this hearing, that time frame of October the 30th to November the 6th that they honed in on just now at this hearing, I don't really think that that was in the previous deficiency letter. There were other dates years before the suit was even filed, And they were trying to say that Miss Cooper was on the notice and that she was going to be sued because they said online, sue me. The court, okay, Mr. Sullivan. So, Your Honor, the court, no, I'm sorry, I'm listening to Mr. McLemeth. Mr. McLemeth. So I was preparing not just for this October the 30th to November the 6th time frame, but also messages from way before then. And the dispute would have been that those messages could have been deleted well before she got any notice. The court, okay, those messages. But if we're talking about post, messages received, or conversation after the preservation letter, we'll just focus on those then. All right, thank you, Mr. McLemeth. If that's all we're discussing now, then I'll focus on those and we'll go from there. The court, thank you very much, Mr. Sullivan. Just the last thing on the prejudice, Judge. I mean, all of us are trying to reconstruct forensically. Miss Cooper knows it all. She knows the reasons for those deletions. She can tell him factually if there's some set of life circumstances that could create those gaps. I mean, they have the market cornered on that. You'll see what she said in the depot, but there's nothing informative. The court, okay, so let's match what you have so that hopefully we can be done by 12:30 because I have to do, well, I do have to move on to the next matter. Mr. Sullivan, yes, just play it right through. Video play from 12:08 p.m. to 12:21 p.m. The court, can we hold it a second, Mr. McLemeth? I think we're veering off on the points, Mr. Sullivan. It's the last one. The court, okay, you withdraw your objection, Mr. McLemeth. Yes, Judge. The court, okay, go ahead. Video play from 12:22 p.m. to 12:23 p.m. The court, okay, so I'm not sure about the relevance of that as to whether she erased messages from her phone. Mr. Sullivan, well, I think this is the last one, Judge. A few of these, frankly, are meant to show that this particular witness, again, we're looking for a finding that she intentionally tried to deprive us of evidence. There's a lot of evasion, of not playing by the rules, of doing things in a way that is manipulative. And I think that this clip about her saying, I can get away with this because I didn't post it myself. I said go to my likes and find it there. I mean, intent is something to say about somebody. The court, okay, Mr. Sullivan, that they would delete messages to help her case, well, their case. And I think some of this suggests that you have to decide whether she's that kind of a person, but she seems to take a lot of liberties with the rules of these other engagements. The court, all right, I see your point. So I have the transcripts here in the paperwork that you sent me. I'm assuming this transcript will have that information. I know I've highlighted some of the information that I hear there. So I don't know that I need to see more unless there's something specifically going to her deleting messages. I think I've seen that now live from the video, and I've read that in the transcript. She's acknowledging receiving the letter. Mr. Sullivan, one other. If I could just show you one of the exhibits that didn't really show up while she was talking. It is one document. It would take just 30 seconds. For the record, I've marked for ID Exhibit F. It is a copy of a tweet in the exhibit where we were discussing. Ooh, excuse me, y'all. Had a burp. Sorry about that. It is a copy of the tweet in the exhibit that we were discussing with the witness on the clip. And I'll just tell you, if you look on the back, Judge, the relevance of this, she's saying that she's saying about her right to do what she thinks she's doing. And then she says, what would the lawsuit be for that? And this is back in June, right? June of 2024, right? So I would put that, I mean, that was very provocative. And she was saying, I think I can do this and get away with it. And why am I going to get sued for that? I think that shows somebody who is aware that they're at least playing with the line in litigation could be coming. And just in terms of the date, you should start thinking about when she should be, well, should have been preserving things. I think we have a couple of points in the timeline where She's looking at litigation. So it's just for that. The court, thank you, counsel, Mr. McLemid. I guess just on this last exhibit that was entered again, I don't know if we're arguing for all of the periods before they actually sent this notice letter, but this seems to, I guess, put an argument forth that they want the court to consider dates before that. I'm not sure whether we're arguing where the goalposts are. So if I could get an understanding of that, I could know where I'm arguing and where I'm going. But even this, when she says, what would the lawsuit for that be? I mean, she's literally saying that they don't have any lawsuit against her. That's her understanding of it, the court. Right. And I agree with Mixon McGlimeth on that. It seems to be that maybe she doesn't understand her legal rights or what she's legally required to do if she seems to think there's no lawsuit for that. But from the date in which she receives the preservation letter and acknowledges that she has the preservation letter, I don't see how I can ignore that she's deleted after that, Mr. McGlimeth. And I'm not telling you to ignore that, Judge, but if if we're honing in on that, then it's not just about whether she deleted messages. There's some other considerations that the court has to make before it takes a determination that Mrs. Cooper is liable for sanctions in this case. The court understood, Mr. Sullivan. And just to preserve our position, Judge, I agree with you that the focus, it's an easier to understand focus on these post-preservation letter. But I think our position is going to be, and I think the law supports it, that reasonably anticipating litigation in this context is broad enough. I think to embrace someone who's saying, sue me, which is what the earlier text said, and there's more if we're going down that path. So we do stand by that. But I understand that your honor's prioritizing this, the court. I understand your argument, but if this is the evidence you have that she was aware that she could be sued, this isn't sufficient. What else do you have? And even if you have that, I guess my concern is, as a non-lawyer, how is she to have understood the importance of preservation of evidence? And so I would need more, Mr. Sullivan. I'm going to give you the other exhibit we have that explicitly mentions, I will say, Judge, you have the whole transcript. And Miss Cooper took classes in criminology. She went to the Tory Lanez trial. She covered that. She took detailed notes. And I think as a person, and you'll hear from the transcript, that has a great awareness of litigation and what was going on here. And our lawyer allegation is that she became part of that team and was deployed to do things that couldn't do themselves because he had a gag order. He wasn't going to say anything specific, and she became the messenger. She was in a legal machine. She was in a legal machine. And the exhibit E for ID as Bates number 2554. And let's see, this is February the 23rd of 2022. It's after the verdict. By the way, Judge, we spent all that time on the December 22, 23. That is when the jury was out in the Tory Lanez shooting Megan case. The courts. I see, Mr. Sullivan. And that long gap is literally during that case. We're happy to submit law on that. I think it's your call on when she would have been aware. But I think compared to most people, if you read her transcripts, she had a very good sense of what this is and what she was doing. And she was certainly in the system. When she sat in that case, the gag order was there. I mean, it was a big fact of life for people trying to talk about this, and that some people were gagged. So we stand by the argument. You'll be the judge, the court, all right, Mr. McGlimeth. And just to briefly respond to that Miss Cooper went to college. She did criminology. I majored in criminology. I practiced primarily criminal defense. At no point in time during my practice or in college was I taught that I should preserve evidence for a criminal matter. The two things don't go together. So that's not proof that she, as a layperson, would have any idea that she could or she should preserve evidence because she made a comment about someone on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. The court. All right. Thank you very much. What other evidence does the plaintiff have, Mr. Sullivan? That completes our evidence, what we put in the court. All right. Thank you. And what evidence does the defendant have, Mr. McLemith? Again, Judge, if Miss Cooper were here, she could probably answer the question more, I guess, definitively as to what was deleted and her reasoning why. In one of the clips that we just saw, Miss Cooper was starting to explain that time period for the screenshot. So you could hear in the video counsel, you could hear in the video counsel was asking about the November the 14th date and what was going on around that time. Miss Cooper began to say, and I wrote it down, November is when I do a trip every year. And the video cut off, and I don't know where in the transcript that is at, but she was able to explain something in the video, just cuts off. So, I mean, I could ask that portion be played because that was really the only relevant portion of that entire video that was answering the question that the court was asking. So I can tell you this, proffer, right, of what we've been told by our client, that she deletes messages and apps on her phone at different periods of time because she creates content and her phone gets full. So if she is on a trip, which I think she was about to say that in the video, and she needs space on her phone for videos or photos or whatever, she'll go in and just delete random threads or group chats that she has to make space. And then she also deleted things that she didn't think were relevant to this case, right? And that doesn't call for spoliation sanction, but if she were here, she couldn't come because of this flight issue. We spoke at the airport last night. She said she was about to board in 15 minutes and the flight gets canceled. So she's not here to testify to those things. The court, I understand. So I have that page of transcripts, and basically it just says, November is when I do a trip every year. And she says, I have to edit a lot because I do like a mock reality show. Okay. Do you think that these deletions are related to the mock reality show? These messages? Yeah. Oh, her answer was like, why I may have needed space. And when she asked if she was creating space for her show, she answered yes. I wouldn't say that for certain. You just asked me what kind of going on around that time. I don't know why. So I do have the rest of that answer. I do have her testimony with regard to the deletions. I don't see where I needed more. I also need to hear from plaintiff then on what sanctions are you asking the court for, Mr. Sullivan. I think that we have a proposed order that started this initial process, but it's a finding of intention to deprive us of this evidence. Certainly, post-preservation letter instances of deletions, adverse inference, and then in what we submitted in the proposed order, there are some detailed findings that would affect, and I can hand that up if you want, but it's going to be an adverse inference. Again, I have a lot of these cases. This really needs to have teeth. Nowadays, if you delete it, it's going to be gone. This problem I have that I can't say when they deleted it, it's because the bad guys are as smart as the good guys. And this is just the way to do it. And anybody can go on YouTube and learn it. So this has to be not worth doing. So a serious adverse inference, and we have the language in the proposed order. The court. All right. Thank you very much. So I think I have everything I needed to make a decision in this case. Quite frankly, in terms of your expert, I don't see how your expert can give me any more information with regard to the deletions. I am looking at the emails here that my law clerk has printed out for me, and none of them does it say that you are requesting your expert to appear via Zoom. So perhaps there is some misunderstanding, and that email just never was sent. I'm good to go ahead and prepare an order in this case. And the next question I have is with respect to timing. And I know that there is a deadline, I believe, tomorrow for dispositive motions. I don't think I'll have the order out by tomorrow. So just letting you know, this is not something that can happen overnight, Mr. Sullivan. Understood. I think we're going to live with whatever that is, and we'll make adjustments accordingly. And I do think our urgency, though, Judge, that evidence on those rolls is gone. We have to plan our case without it and know what we're going to have instead, right? Is it nothing? Well, it is nothing. The court. And of course, you can argue in your dispositive motion that the evidence is gone, Mr. Sullivan. Yes. But I think at this time, we are probably not going to make a summary judgment motion in this case. Just go to trial. The court. All right, Mr. McLemith. And Judge, I did want to put some case law on the record for this issue, if I may. The court, go ahead. Oh, excuse me, Mr. McLemith. Okay, sorry. So I'm looking at an order from a case in this district. In the order cites case law. It says a movement must show that the spoliated evidence is crucial to the movement being able to prove its prima facie case. I think there's a gap there. It says prima and then facie. All right, let's continue. It is not enough that the spoliated evidence would have been relevant to a claim or defense. So relevance is not enough. And then it cites to another case and gives a parenthetical finding that's although relevant, spoliated evidence is not crucial. Another parent, I don't know how you say that where I'm butchering the heck out of it. After that, allegedly, spoliated evidence is not crucial to plaintiff's claims because it could prove its case through evidence obtained elsewhere. Generally, only outcome determinative evidence constitutes crucial evidence. And in this case, the text messages that are deleted, we don't know who sent the text message or where they were sent from. We don't know. And they were deleted. We don't know what the context of the text messages was or is. We don't know pretty much anything about the text messages to even make the argument that they are relevant to this case, much less crucial to the case. Opposing counsel started by mentioning that there was some case that was that he was a part of, and that there was, I guess, one message or one email that identifies something, or some meeting or some negotiation between the parties. And in that case, obviously, it's distinguishable from this case because the central issue in that case, or I guess whatever the judge was considering, I don't know because he didn't actually cite a case. But the issue was whether there was some negotiation or whether there was some proof of a negotiation. And there was proof of negotiation, I guess, in the form of some email that was deleted. In this case, the messages that were deleted in order for them to be relevant, they would have to be messages or have some indication that these messages had something to do with the claims in this case. And then once we get that threshold understanding down, those messages have to have been crucial for them to prove their case. And in this situation, they haven't established any prejudice because if those messages were about her going swimming or going to the beach or taking her kids to school, then there is no spoliation. There's no prejudice in them having those messages. The messages that she was asked to preserve are messages. I would assume are messages that has something to do with this case, not messages that has nothing to do with this case. And if she deleted messages that have nothing to do with this case, then those messages should not be considered in the court's determination as to whether there's a spoliation sanction to be given. The court. Okay, I certainly understand that the messages would need to be crucial. The problem that I see, and I can tell you preliminarily, is that without the messages, there's no way to know whether they were outcome determinative. So she needs to have put herself in a box in that situation, Mr. McLemith. Well, I guess in that situation, then every case in which there are deleted messages because we don't know the exact nature of those messages, then in every case where there's a deleted message, even just one, there would be a spoliation. Somehow it would be subject to spoliation. It would be a per se ruling. And I don't think that's the case. The court, correct. All we can look at are the circumstances surrounding it. Mr. McLemith, yes. The court. And I appreciate that. All right. Anything else from the parties? I think that's all we've heard from everyone. Everything that is to be heard at this point, and I appreciate the arguments and the evidence. Mr. Sullivan, can I add sort of just one footnote at the end? We had 2 or 3 other tiny items. We don't have to go into them, but you mentioned the summary judgment. So there's a fact discovery cutoff. There's a couple of small things we've talked about that based on this ruling we'll have to adjust. But I think we can probably work it out. But I just want to put a placeholder that we might have to come back to you whenever we see you again on this cleanup stuff. The court, okay. I think with respect to Judge Octanaka's discovery deadlines, if the parties agree that there's other discovery that needs to be done, then Mr. Sullivan, I think we can work it out. The court, there shouldn't be a problem, Mr. McLemid. So if we're doing more discovery, what about the dispositive motion deadline that is tomorrow? The court, I understand. Are you filing a dispositive motion tomorrow? I mean, maybe in a claim or two, possibly. The court, well, that's entirely up to you. But with respect to further discovery, I don't know at this point what you're talking about, Mr. Sullivan. I think on our side, and we've talked more with Ms. Dixon about it, but we have, I don't know, a handful of documents, subpoenas that are basically to the other side of some of the missing transactions or communications to try to get in that way. The court, through our cloud, you mean, Mr. Sullivan? Pardon? The court, missing communications. Are you trying to get them directly from iCloud or Mr. Sullivan, or from AT&T, Instagram, whatever? Okay, so let's pause here. As y'all see here, it seems that Megan's team is going to be sending out subpoenas to iCloud and AT&T. Okay, let's continue. Is there any objections to that, Mr. McLemith? No. The court deputy, Your Honor, are exhibits F and E admitted? The court. So the last exhibits we have are E and F. Any objections from defendants? I think your objection was relevance, Mr. McLemith, earlier. Oh, well, yes, but I mean, this is the same objection as before, lack of foundation. So I'd make that objection. And I'd renew my objection on exhibit AA, which the witness could not lay any foundation from earlier, Mr. Sullivan. On the first one, I believe the witness authenticated the exhibit in her depot and have the transcript. And you have the transcript, sorry. And again, on AA, I think we're not putting it in for the truth. We're putting it in for an accurate depiction of, I think probably as Jeremy exposed 2 different parts of the analyst, Mr. McLemid. But I'm not making a hearsay objection. I'm making a foundation before we get to whether it's hearsay. You have to lay foundation for the exhibit. So that's what I'm arguing, not hearsay. The court. So his concern is, where did these come from? Mr. Sullivan. Oh, are you on the tweets? The court. What is a tweet? F? Mr. Sullivan. Are you still objecting to that? The court. And E is also some tweets, Mr. McLemith. I think his reputation, and I can't remember if Milagro Cooper stated in the deposition transcript that those were her tweets, and I take that for what it is. AA is my issue. The court. Okay, Mr. Sullivan. And again, on AA, I think the foundation was on the record with an expert. The foundation is whether the source information is exclusively her phones. The court. I think we went over that a couple of times by asking questions about where the particular extractions came from. I don't know how to clarify that more. I think, Mr. Sullivan, it's no better or worse than what he said. We have it all here, and there's different ways to extract it. Anyway, my response to the objection is I'm not offering it for more than what he said it was, Mr. McLemith. And what he said was he doesn't know if the screenshot with the metadata comes from the first phone or the second hard drive. He also said he had never seen this exhibit before today. And he said that he didn't know what the last modified date necessarily was. He didn't know if it came from Milagro doing something or something else. He doesn't know anything about this exhibit. The court, let me double check because I thought that he said it came from the second extraction. Mr. McLemith, he said it came from the first. The court, oh, so he did try. Well, he did say it came from the first. So that is where it came from. That's the source, Mr. Sullivan. I thought the confusion that you brought out, Jeremy, was that on the right hand side, there's some relatively metadata. And he was confused about where that came from. And is that the right answer? And then the part on the left side, he said, did come from her original phone, Mr. McLemith. Well, yeah. So Exhibit J comes from the first phone dump, or actually, I think Exhibit J was produced in discovery. Actually, but this exhibit itself, I'm not splitting the exhibits from left to right. The exhibit itself had never been seen before, Mr. Sullivan. And again, Your Honor, reprinted it out literally to try to answer a question that you raised, Jeremy. The court, oh, AA included a last modified date, and he had not seen it before. I understand, but the actual screenshot itself, he testified that he had seen that and that it came from the first extraction. Mr. McLemith, correct, but there's no metadata on that first exhibit, Exhibit J. The metadata is what I have an issue with, Exhibit AA. The court, okay, in the metadata that was something counsel produced, I want more information then, Mr. Sullivan. FTI pulled the metadata from the phone that was associated with that image. The court, right? But not your witness, Mr. Sullivan. That's a good, it sounds to me not him personally, but somebody else looked at it and it put it together. The court. So your witness cannot authenticate that document that's coming from the FTI, Mr. Sullivan. Oh, I think he did. No, it's literally a product of the same database he was looking at up there with his computer. The court. Okay, Mr. Sullivan. I think whoever generated it when that question was asked is not him. But I think his answer addressed again, he can't defy an exhibit, but he addressed what he knows about for the exhibit. So he knew about the screenshot and he understood that this was relatively metadata. I'm sorry, I'm said relatively, sorry, y'all. Process metadata that originated with the phone. The court. Can he put him back on the phone? Is this here? Did he leave? Mr. Sullivan, sure. The court. There he is. Let's get some more clarity about AA. The witness. Do I need the laptop again? The court. No, just give him AA. The court deputy. I have a copy. I just need it back. Mr. Sullivan, Your Honor, while he's doing that, we have prepared a short proposed order on our adverse inference. And it has language in there. If it's okay that we hand that up, the court, yes, of course. And make sure a copy for opposing counsel. The court deputy, sir, you were reminded that you're still under oath. The witness, yes. So right now, we're on page 110. This is a redirect examination, okay? We're almost at the end, By Mr. Sullivan, Matthias, do you have AA in front of you? The exhibit? Yes. And you heard all the questions everyone in the court was asking. Basically, tell me what you understand about the source of the data there and the actual presentation of it that you're looking at. Yes. So on the left side of the exhibit, there's the screenshot that I have seen on the original image. The right side of the exhibit, I recognize that it's the metadata view from Relativity. I'm getting tongue tied. I'm getting tired, y'all. But I haven't personally looked into those dates and tried to make or understand that they meant what they meant. Okay, then you were asked a specific question about what the modified on July the 17th of 25 could mean. I mean, you speculated that you didn't really have any personal knowledge of that, right? Correct. I don't know. So, is it more fair to say that you recognize the screenshot, but the relatively data to the right, you're not personally able to attest to because you hadn't dealt with it before? Correct. I didn't access the reality database for this case. Court. And how would that data be accessed, sir? The witness. It's a platform that's used for document review. The court. Is it something that FTI would have? The witness. Yes. The court. Okay. And would you be able to determine if you looked at this data, the origins of that July date? Would you be able to determine that, or are you testifying that it cannot be determined? This modification? The witness. I can't confirm it all. I can spend some time with the image and try to determine whether this date or where this date is coming from. This is the court. My question is it impossible to determine, or can it be determined? The court, the witness. No. It can be determined based on the other evidence that I have around this file. I have to see what the source is, what is stored on the phone. There's a few things that I need to check to explain better if the last modified date is related to something that happened on the phone, or maybe something that happened when the picture was extracted from the phone by Mr. O'Sullivan. But either way, this is explaining a July 25th date. And you do have access to the database that will tell you that, right? Yes. And you assessed it before the database? Yes. In reality, in the reality database for this case, I haven't. Now, there's something that matches. When I saw this, the image on the phone, I found it based on data filter, and the date was 11/14/2024 on the source device. The date that I used to filter and find this exhibit is the created date. The court. I understand, Mr. Sullivan. I understand. Okay, bye, Mr. Sullivan. So you're able to place that in time based on that, and it's not related to the July 2025 modification? Correct. Mr. Sullivan. Do you understand that, Judge? The court. Yes. But I understand that he's also saying that he cannot confirm at this point who modified the document on July the 25th, 2025. Mr. Sullivan. Right. Or what it was. I just want the record to be clear that the database itself doesn't show, or does show, could show right now that the metadata tells you it's that November the 14th of 2024 date. That image, right? That's in there. The court. Understood. The witness. Yes, the court. So to the extent that that's been confirmed by the witness, I would accept the evidence in the exhibit. Oh, we're on page 113. We're almost there. As far as the okay, so let me continue. As far as the July the 25th date, that has not been verified by the witness. So that date will be disregarded. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, counsel, Mr. McLemid. So one last thing. I did not put the actual case on the record. I just want to do that. The court. Oh, the case law regarding the outcome determinative issue, Mr. McLemid. Yes, Judge. So it's in this district. The case number is 20/CV/2987. It's docket entry 46 from August the 3rd of 2021, Judge Jonathan Goodman. The court, thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Dixon. And Your Honor, regarding the email, it was sent on August the 6th of 2025 at 2:11 p.m. It was copied to all parties, including the court. And what I did was I forwarded the message from Thomas Pullen, who was our expert, and he said, Rhonda, Rhonda, I can be available via Zoom, but at the moment I'm in Jacksonville. Can you get it to be Zoom? I've done a lot of hearings via Zoom. They should be okay if you ask. And I forwarded this to the court. Maybe it was unclear, but I was told that nothing could be done via Zoom and the client could be appeared via Zoom if that was a possibility. But all flights for United were canceled, and that's a matter of public record. And she was actually in the airport when that happened. So she wasn't able to get here today. The court. All right. Thank you very much for that information, Mr. Sullivan. One tiny last housekeeping. Judge, can I just make sure that E and F were admitted? If not, I would ask for those to be admitted. I think they were. The court, yes, all the other exhibits were admitted, Mr. Sullivan. Any objection to E and F if they are not already? Mr. McLemmick, no objection. The court, all right, thank you very much. So, Mr. Sullivan, thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Dixon, thank you, Your Honor. Proceedings concluded at 12:53 p.m. Certification, and this is just the site. So, oh, we made it, y'all. We made it. This is just the index at the bottom. So, a few key things that I see. There was some issues with some of the exhibits. Milagro Elizabeth Cooper couldn't get a flight. The flight got canceled. They did bring up her deposition. They did bring up the deletion of text messages. And as of right now, it looks like Megan's legal team will not file anything pertaining to, them trying to get certain things thrown out. But I know Milagro they submitted it, but it's the matter of if it's going to get approved or not. We'll just have to wait and see on that on the docket. And I appreciate I don't know if that's how many in here right now, 6,786. I appreciate y'all for being in here right now with me. We've been in here almost 3 hours, and I know I got tongue tied on a few things, but I appreciate y'all for being with me. This was a good stream, long stream, but I appreciate everybody who was here. As I always say, when you lead with integrity, you never have to worry about somebody questioning your loyalty or your intentions. And with that being said, until next time there's another court update, then we will be back and we will be reporting. Okay. I hope y'all have a great night. This Saturday night, go out and get you a nice little drink. Yay with the yay, what I'm saying? Go party, do whatever you got to do. Y'all have a good one though. Bye-bye.